You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 250. What's the best way to break up? Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, my beautiful brave hearts. How are you doing today? I am feeling so much gratitude this morning for so many reasons. But I'm really excited to be here. And I know this episode is kind of an odd topic because I'm normally talking specifically to a brave heart who got broken up with and is really struggling. But here's the thing, we're 250 episodes in, and this is one of the most common questions I get asked by random people I'm introducing myself to. When they ask what I do, I say I'm a breakup coach. And so they accidentally think that I help people break up. And I'm like, no, I actually help people get over their ex. But they're like, well, what's the best way to break up? And it's just such an interesting question that I get that I thought, let's record a podcast episode on this. And I want to talk about it. I think it'll be super valuable for both ends of the spectrum. So if you are someone who got broken up with, you're not looking to do a breakup or perform a breakup in any way, shape, or form, I still want to urge you to listen. I think this will be a super valuable and important episode. Okay? The biggest takeaway that I want you to have coming from this, that I want to just bring up right away, is that no matter how you get broken up with or you break up with someone, no matter how your ex broke up with you, there will always be feelings involved. And more often than not, the person getting broken up with will have a grass is greener experience. What I mean by that is you just have no idea how many. Actually, I'm having an epiphany myself. I've had so many breakup conversations. I just can't even, I wish there was like a tally number in my brain that I could think of, but I've had so many breakup conversations. And you have no idea how many times I have heard brave hearts say, but Dorothy, if my ex was just mean, if he had done something wrong, this breakup would be easier. And then I hear, Dorothy, if he was just nice and would have been kind in this experience, there was a better way of doing this, it would be easier. Or if there was a reason that wasn't related to me, this would be easier. Or if there was a reason that was related, that wasn't related or was related to me, this would be easier. Dorothy, it would be easier if he just cheated on me. Dorothy, it would be easier if he would have broken up with me before he slept with this person. Like, I've seen it all. I've heard it all. And every single time, everyone thinks the grass is greener on the other side, depending on how they got broken up with. But more often than not, the brain will think of this breakup, if it happened in a different way, it would be easier or better. And in reality, here's the thing, you guys, breakups happen. They happen daily, actually, and they happen in a variety of ways. Breakups where there was nothing wrong in the relationship, breakups where someone feels forced to break up with the other person, breakups where cheating or infidelity was an issue, perhaps addiction of some sort, breakups because two people aren't on the same page and working towards two different lifestyles, breakups because one person thinks or feels something is missing, perhaps both people feel that way. Breakups because of constant arguing or bickering and not being able to work through a certain issue. Breakups and divorce happen. And they happen in so many ways with so many variables, and rarely, I won't say never, but rarely are they even. They sometimes are, or they very often can get to be like, even meaning both people seeing it, acknowledging and accepting it and being on the same page with it. But more often, though, there's one person who pursues the breakup and divorce more so than the other person. But it doesn't mean that feelings aren't involved on both sides. And I say all of this because I want those of you who are doing the breakup to realize, one, no matter what you do, you won't be able to control your partner, your soon-to-be ex. right? You're not going to be able to control their thoughts and feelings. No matter how perfect you think the breakup plan is, or how easily you're trying to let them down, they will have whatever thoughts and feelings they want to have. And it could be the world's best breakup, truthfully, we could do some sort of poll and it could be the world's best breakup. And they could and probably would still feel betrayal, loss, devastation, grief, sadness, and heartbreak. And secondly, I want you to realize, for those of you who have gotten broken up with, please realize and pick up on yourself if you've been someone who said it would be easier if my ex just did this or said this in the breakup. That's not really the case, because there is someone who has an ex that did and or said those things and wishes they had your situation. It's mind-blowing, right? It's so crazy. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. The grass is green where you water it. So where you put the work in is where we're going to get the green grass, okay? So let's really dive into the best way to break up with someone, coming from a breakup coach with 5 years of experience and helping people heal from heartbreak in a new way and helping people get over their ex in 3 months or less. What is my perspective on the best breakup? First things first, knowing if you want to leave or not, okay? Now, I have an episode all about how to know when it's time to leave your relationship. We will link that in the show notes for you. But I also want to mention it may be really beneficial to be having conversations with your partner about how you're feeling before you decide to leave. Like, hey babe, I'm feeling resentful and lonely in our relationship. It's making me consider whether or not we should be together. I want to work on these things with you. If that's really true for you, if you actually want to work on these things, right? And here are my ideas. And I know this might be news and new information for you that you may want to process first, but do you have any ideas, or have you been feeling any of these things? And have an open dialogue and open conversation. I'm not saying that that is what you should do always, but in some situations I've seen that work out well. So if that feels in alignment for you, I'd say go for it. Open the conversation, especially if you want things to work and you truly want to work on things with them. And it's the beginning of that process. But once you've decided you'd like to leave the relationship, the first thing you need to remind yourself of is this. Number 1, there is no best way to break up with someone. I know that's like a hard truth to swallow. There is no best way to do this. Number 2, no matter what you do, I can't control how the other person is going to think about me or feel in this situation. Like I said before, right? No matter how you do this breakup, even if you do it in the most seemingly best way, if we could take a poll throughout, the entire world, what's the best way to break up? And then the majority of people agree on it. Even if you did it that way, it might not be perceived that way. The person, receiving the breakup is still going to have their own thoughts, their own opinions, their own point of view, and their own feelings that you don't have control over. The third thing is, I want you to remember that the only thing that you do have control over in this situation is showing up in a way that makes you feel proud of yourself. And this is kind of how I see it. I know I can't control other people's feelings or thoughts about me, but I do want to show up in a way where I look back and I say, hey, I like how I showed up in this situation. I like how I handled this. I did the best that I could in that moment with the information that I had. And I want to be good and kind. And I am a good person, a good-hearted person, and I want to show up that way. So you need to remember those 3 key points as you approach breaking up with someone, because as good as our intentions are going to be, because clearly most loving human beings, you love this person, you care about this person, breaking up with them isn't going to be easy, but recognizing that, something's not aligned or this relationship is complete and wanting to leave the relationship, it's hard. It's hard on both sides. And when you care about that person, of course, you want to do good by them. You want to, make this as easy as possible in all, areas. But just because you think you're doing the right thing doesn't mean that they're going to perceive it that way. And so you have to really remember that, number 1, there's no best way. 2, you can't control their thoughts and feelings. And 3, you do have control over how you show up And that's what you can focus on here. Okay. So I strongly suggest you work through some of these questions before you go about conveying your breakup message. And a lot of times when I'm working with my clients who have already been broken up with, I talk about how breakups are a decision and not a conversation. And that I'm telling them that because the decision has already been made. But if I were able to talk to their exes beforehand, I would say if it feels in alignment to have a conversation, absolutely do it. If you're in a place where you do truly want it to work, do it. But if you are to a place where you're like, no, this is not for me, don't open up that conversation or ask them to be someone or something that they're not, right? So the first question is, knowing that everyone is different, how would I want to be broken up with? Now, not everyone is going to agree on this, right? Some people want to just be told directly and then left alone. Others want a long, drawn-out conversation about why and what they could have done differently because the brain wants to have some sense of control. And if it's about them, then perhaps they have control over the situation. But if my husband were to break up with me today, I'd want him to be honest with his feelings and his thoughts that have led him to where he's at. Even if it's uncomfortable, I'd want him to be kind and patient and calm and understanding and loving. And honestly, I'd want him to be clear in his decision. But you've got to think about what that looks like for you. Secondly, knowing that everyone is different, how would I want my feelings to be considered while going through this situation? Please notice everyone is different here. So consider how you'd want this to go, but also consider how you think your partner, your soon-to-be ex, would like this as well. I would want to most likely not be in a public place. I'd love to have ample amount of time to talk through it and get to a place of understanding. Even if I don't agree with it, I'd like to know where the thoughts and feelings are coming from that are leading to the action of breaking up with me. The next question is, what do I want to believe about myself as the person breaking up with this other person, right? What do I want to believe about myself no matter what my current partner, soon to be ex, might think of me after this breakup conversation? And this is important because, like I said, your ex might have thoughts about you or perception or a point of view about you after the breakup, and they will have feelings, and you have to decide what you want to believe about you before you let them influence or sway how you think about yourself. Okay? Common thoughts I think would be useful in a breakup setting are, I'm doing the best I can. I intentionally thought this through and formed a plan based on thoroughly thought out questions. This isn't easy, but honesty isn't always easy, and I'm here for honesty. I can be proud of how I'm showing up, even if my ex has a lot of feelings. I can be proud of myself while also feeling compassionate towards my ex-partner. The next question is, what is my honest reason for not wanting to be in this relationship anymore? This is huge. This one to me is very profound. It's just so important. I'm going to repeat the question. What is my honest reason for not wanting to be in this relationship anymore? Sometimes we think this is about our ex, when in reality, it's always about you. So for example, perhaps you're leaving the relationship because you're tired of their behavior. Say they drink too much. The underlying reason, it's not because they drink too much, like that is absolutely like something, but the underlying reason for wanting to leave this relationship is about you. It's that I want a different lifestyle. And it's difficult for me to be with someone who drinks at the capacity that my partner drinks at and makes that a priority in their life. It's a completely different lifestyle. It's not about them. They've chosen to drink, and maybe you've had multiple conversations about reducing that or whatever, and they've decided that that's not for them and they don't want to change that. Their action is showing them differently. Make it about you. I personally don't want to be in that lifestyle, right? It's difficult for me to be in a relationship with someone who makes that such a priority in their life. And I think that's so helpful. I think it's so helpful. It reminds me of my previous breakups and how I used to make them about me because my partner or my exes would say something like, well, you do this, so it's a problem, right? And when I look at it, I'm like, okay, so the breakup that started Breakup Coach Dorothy, he left to be in a new relationship with someone new. And when you think about his reason, his underlying reason is I'm just more compatible with somebody else. Doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. He just maybe was seemingly more, and I'm making this up from, my own ideas of what it could have been. But then I sit there and I think about I left my previous partner not because he wasn't the most amazing partner and just such a solid human and man and individual, but just because I wanted to live in Florida. That's the only reason I left. It had nothing to do with him other than the fact that I wanted to live in Florida. He chose not to. And so making it about me is saying, my honest reason for not wanting to be in this relationship anymore is because I want to be living where I want to live. And that's not a fit for us. If you're making it about the person you're breaking up with, I really, really want you to question what is the deeper thing and make it about you so that when you're conveying that message, you can help them understand that it's truly about what you desire and what you need and what you want in life, and less about pointing fingers at them being like a bad person or there's something wrong with them. The last question is, what uncomfortable conversations might we need to have during or after the breakup? And how can I plan for these? And how can I be honest, even if it's uncomfortable? Now, your ex might be someone who needs to process things, right? They might be someone who needs to receive the information. And then before trying to come up with a game plan, they need to back away, noodle on it in their brain and come back. So can you have a starting place or a starting game plan to get you both through the next couple of days while they process? Can you allow space for that? How might you like that if it was happening to you? And how might your ex like that, right? Knowing what you know about them. So use all of that information that you explore in terms of these questions. So as you go through these questions, you're exploring. There's no right or wrong answers. We're literally just exploring here. And as you explore, use this different information that you find to form how you'd like to follow through in the breakup. And again, knowing that even if you show up in a way you're proud of, it doesn't mean your ex is going to be proud of you. It also doesn't mean your ex won't be mad or upset or heartbroken. But as long as you showed up in a way where you felt like you did the best you could in that moment, I think that's the best you can do in that kind of situation. It's like difficult conversations 101. Overall, as much as we cannot control other people's thoughts and feelings, please remember that we can take in account other people's feelings. And be the best you that you can be. Show up in a way that you've intentionally thought through and be proud that you did this in a structured way that felt like the best thing for you and for your partner. This isn't easy. And for those of you who are listening who got broken up with, I want you to know that I have also worked with my fair share of people who did the breaking up. And doing the breaking up sucks too. It's very not easy. Sometimes you feel like you're forced to break up with someone when you don't want to. Sometimes the relationship is almost everything you want, but not quite there. Both sides of a breakup hurt, even if they don't say it. Both sides have feelings, even if you don't see it. But there's what I do want to say about breakups. Biggest thing about breakups that I want you to know. Every breakup is a new beginning. And a new beginning to become even more of your authentic self, an experience that takes you to your depths so that you can feel higher highs. And without heartbreak, there wouldn't be happiness. So let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy, Braveheart, no matter which end of this breakup you're on. And we're all in this together. We're all learning how to do heartbreak differently and better and raise the vibration around it, okay? All right, my Braveheart, I love you so much. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will talk to you next time. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.